where we left off the last video, the Lusitania gets blown up, even though the people were warned and the government tried to hide weapons on it. But nonetheless, the American people are irate. Now, again, it's not all of America, because a lot of America doesn't want to fight this war. I mean, the ruling class, the elite class, and then the sheeple. But there are people that are upset about this war because, heaven forbid you try to go on a vacation in a war zone. Imagine that today. If you want to go to, we'll just use Syria. And you go to Syria and there's bullets flying around and you get shot, and then you expect America to go fight Syria because you wanted a vacation in a war zone. That's what we're talking about. You were warned not to get on the boat. You knew the boat was going to go through a war zone. You got blown up, and then America wants to get upset. Those innocent people, what are we doing? So the Sussex ultimatum will take it even further. So we've got these ships getting blown up because it's a war. It's a war zone. The ships are carrying weapons. They're probably going to get blown up. Maybe we should all just chill out. And either, if we're going to get upset about it, just deal with it. Or maybe just stop sending ships over and stay out of it. Maybe be neutral like we say we're going to be. Anyway. So America's upset because another ship gets blown up, and the Germans don't know, right? The Germans are in the middle of a war. There's tons of ships carrying weapons all around, and they're blowing the ships up because they're trying to win the war. That's kind of what you need to do. They claim, whether or not it's true or not, they thought that the ship was a warship. Well, 80 people die, 4 of which are American. Oh no, 4 Americans die. 4 Americans died. Guess we got to go to war. Like, I'm sorry for those 4 people, but 300 million people, 4. 300 million people, 4. Anyway, well, it wasn't 300 million then, but whatever. You get the point. So America says, that's it. This is the last warning. You keep messing around, and it's not going to be good for you, Germany. And Germany says, well, we are going to keep messing around until you end the blockade. You are starving us to death. Your ships have created a blockade. We cannot get food. Women and children are starving. We're going to keep blowing up the ships until you stop. So stop the blockade, and we will stop blowing up stuff with our submarines. It's that easy. That easy. And the Germans agree. The Germans say, all right, we don't really want to do this. We don't want to kill innocent civilians. We'll stop doing it. Now, you just need to stop the blockade, right? Deal? And America says, nah, sucker. So they stop doing the U-boats, but we keep the blockade. We keep starving them. Now, from the military perspective is, yes, we're starving them, but we're also preventing Germany from getting weapons. Yeah, but you're also starving them, which is not something you're supposed to do. It's a war crime. You can't starve civilians. But hey, if we do it, then it's okay. But it gets worse. So Wilson is always taking this moral high ground. He has the whole moral diplomacy of, well, we're not imperialists and we're not going to get involved in other countries and we're not going to overthrow other countries, only to spread democracy. But, even though we're constantly sending money to one side, we're constantly sending weapons to one side, that seems like we're involved in one side. We're not stopping the war. We're not preventing the war. If anything, we are involved in the war. When we only help one side, you're involved in the war. How moral is that? Meanwhile, he still is saying, no, we're neutral. We're not going to go to war. You are going to go to war. You're only giving money to one side. Eventually we're going to get dragged into this war. You've picked a side. That means you're in the war. But he won't admit to it. And he even goes a step further. After the whole Sussex situation, he decides, first president ever to do this, is start putting soldiers or Navy men on these passenger ships, on these cargo ships, and arming them and also instructing them to fire first. Does that sound neutral? That sounds like it's a warship to me. That sounds like aggression. That sounds like an act of war. That does not sound like he's not trying to go to war. We're not going to go to war. Meanwhile, he's putting soldiers on ships, giving them guns. Well, they're just trying to defend themselves. They shouldn't even be there. What are we doing? And so, of course, the Germans are going to continue to attack. So eventually, they're going to go to war. Thankfully, finally. I've been going through this video. It's like, when are we going to get to the war already? One more thing. So the Zimmermann Telegram is pretty stupid by Germany. Germany thinks that they're going to convince Mexico to fight us and join Germany's side. And if Mexico and Germany win, Germany agrees to give this portion of America back to Mexico that they lost during the Mexican-American War, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and part of Texas. So, yeah, Mexico is like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm glad that you thought to ask us to get involved, but we're not really looking to fight America. Didn't work out for us the first time. Probably not going to work out for us this time. Why don't you go ahead and do us a favor, Germany? Go ahead and lose that number, all right? Lose my number here. So eventually, Wilson's like, that's it, we're going to war. And Congress says, whoa, pump the brakes. We declare war around here, Buster. And they do declare war. They have enough information. They have enough flimsy evidence. Imagine that. I mean, we're going to war because they supposedly did bad stuff to Belgium. They supposedly blew up some ships that were carrying weapons. And then they sent some message to Mexico, a little love letter to Mexico that no one really took seriously, but we're going to get offended by that. We're going to get offended. Well, you know what? What's a good idea to go to war? Because we want to have the right to travel around in a war zone. You're going to send the country into the brutalest, most savage war of all time because we want to travel through a war zone? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. And we did it. Now, Jeanette Rankin, the first female congressperson ever, said no. How about that? She's a pacifist. She stood up for what she believed in, and she was fired. Well, I mean, they'll get fired, but she was not reelected. Guess what? Here's the funny story. In 1940, she gets reelected, and she's back in Congress at the exact time that World War II breaks out and the attack on Pearl Harbor, and we're getting ready to go to war, and Congress has to vote, and she votes no again. Hey, you got to give her credit. She's principled. She's a pacifist. This is what she believes in. And this is exactly what happens when you vote against war. Do not go against the war in America. Good luck with that one. Good luck voting no and see how it works out. So you got to give credit. Jeanette Rankin is not in your textbook. She should be in your textbook.